What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hope you're feeling good. Hope you're feeling great. Let's get it in. We're going to talk about the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. You see, a lot of people talk about hip-hop, right? They talk about hip-hop being controlled by the Illuminati, Hollywood being controlled by the Illuminati and shit like that. Like I said in my other videos, man, the fallen control every aspect of entertainment. The NBA, the NFL, the music industry, Hollywood, politics. The fallen control all of that. And the fallen, and guess what? The fallens control the WWE. Vince McMahon sold the WWE to the fallens. I know it's gonna sound crazy to some people. I know I'm gonna sound like a conspiracy nut, but I don't care. WWE has been sold out to the fallens. You cannot be on television. You cannot make billions and billions of dollars without you selling out to the fallen. Because again, the fallen control the airwave. They control the air. They control what you see in TV. You know what I mean? So they control everything. So Vince McMahon done sold out to the WWE. Vince McMahon sold WWE to the fallens. Right? One of the first, before I get to one of the first biggest sacrifices, you have to understand, when Vince McMahon sold WWE to the fallen, it came at a price. In order for Vince McMahon and WWE to remain on top for what? When did WWE started? 1984 or something like that? I'm not sure, but to stay on top for all those years, that come with a price. Not only that, WWE and Vince McMahon practice blood sacrifice ritual. Vince McMahon deep into the rituals, man. When you heard Vince McMahon shit on that girl, shitted on that girl head, right? That's a form of a ritual. He got that shit from Aleister Crowley and them. That's like a whole ritual right there. Just to give you an example, Vince McMahon's into that shit. But anyways, one of the first sacrifices Vince McMahon had to make was Owen Hart death. You see, Owen Hart death was carefully planned. It was a carefully planned dark ritual. That's why they call the pay-per-view Over the Edge. Whenever these people do something beforehand, they let you know it's gonna happen, like subliminal messages. Just like with the 911, if you know what I'm talking about. Before the 911 happened, they showed a whole bunch of stuff that damn, I don't want to say too much on that, because if I say too much, then the video gonna get blocked. But you know what I mean. Before they do stuff, they show you what's gonna happen beforehand. You know what I mean? Like with the Kobe Bryant helicopter crash. Before Kobe Bryant died, they show Kobe Bryant dying. Kobe Bryant, crashed into a helicopter. They showed that in the cartoon, and then in real life he died. So subliminal messages. So one of the first ritual that Vince McMahon did was the pay-per-view called Over the Edge. Owen Hart, so-called fall over the edge, because that was on purpose. That was Vince McMahon's sacrifice. You know how you know it was Vince McMahon's sacrifice? Easy. The show still kept going. A man died in front of thousands of people. No investigation, barely investigation, no nothing, and the show continue on. The show continue on because it was a dark, ritualistic sacrifice made by Vince McMahon in the WWE. After Owen Hart death happened, that's when the WWE went public on its stock market, on the like the stock market. That's when it went public. Now people could, buy stock in the WWE. After the Owen Hart death, WWE skyrocketed, even though it was already popular, right? But in order to stay popular, in order to still continue the success that they have today, Vince McMahon had to give up a wrestler, which was Owen Hart. No investigation, nobody got arrested. You know what I mean? And a fact, the guy, you want to know a crazy fact? The guy that rigged Owen Hart, the guy that did the Owen Hart harness thing, guess what? He's friends with The Rock. And guess what? The guy that, put the harness on Owen Hart, he did the movie Fast and Furious. He's working in Hollywood currently today. He's supposed to be a professional rigger, and it's the first time that ever happened. And y'all telling me it's a coincidence? Come on, man. If you think Owen Hart's death was a coincidence or accident, it wasn't an accident. They killed Owen Hart. It was a ritualistic sacrifice. I know some of y'all might not understand that because y'all don't understand the dark arts. Y'all don't understand the dark magic that they practice in front of you guys. Y'all don't understand that. It's a whole other world that you don't understand. You don't understand that. But you think it's real, but in reality, they're practicing blood sacrifice ritual right in front of your face. That's why the show kept continuing. That's why the show is called Over the Edge. Let's continue, right? So 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. Boom. Guess what? You gotta keep doing the rituals. You gotta keep doing the sacrifices. Who else was another sacrifice for Vince McMahon? Eddie Guerrero. And just like with Owen Hart, Over the Edge, they let you know what's gonna happen beforehand. Same thing with Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero had a match. When he died, he fell face first in the ring. It was a scripted show. It shows that Eddie Guerrero falling and collapsing in the ring just like he did in real life. In the SmackDown game, Undertaker chokeslammed Eddie Guerrero into the casket. A year later, Eddie Guerrero died. Subliminal messages again. Eddie Guerrero was a blood sacrifice ritual for what? For who? For the WWE. I know it's gonna be crazy. I know I sound crazy, but y'all don't understand, man. Y'all don't understand the blood sacrifices. Y'all don't understand the ritual. But anyways, Eddie Guerrero was a sacrifice for the WWE. Now, 2006, 2007, who was another sacrifice? Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit death alone should be a whole video within itself. That's a whole nother conspiracy right there, but I'm gonna touch on it here. Chris Benoit death again was another blood sacrifice ritual. Everybody was in on it. The state of Georgia, the police department, the WWE, everybody was in on it. The detective, everybody was in on Chris Benoit death. That's why That's why in the Wikipedia page, they post Nancy death 12 hours before anybody knew. How? Oh, it was a coincidence. Oh, he got lucky. He guessed it. No. And they trace back the person that posted it, right? They trace it back to all the way to Stamford, Connecticut, with the headquarters of the WWE. And then they have some kid saying that he did it. That kid was a fall guy. The 19-year-old kid, that was a fall guy. He ain't do that shit. Someone in the WWE official did that shit. They fucked up. They couldn't wait. They thought nobody was gonna notice. 12 hours before anybody knew anything, they posted Nancy Benoit death. 12 hours. Because Chris Benoit death was a blood sacrifice ritual. And just like with Eddie Guerrero and Owen Hart, they showed you what was going to happen beforehand. They have Chris Benoit cutting promos talking about, tonight, my wife and my kids will not be watching Raw. They have Chris Benoit cutting promos like, I sacrifice everything, my wife and my kids. He got promos saying that shit. That's subliminal message, letting you know what's gonna happen beforehand. And then eventually, he so-called killed his whole family. Chris Benoit did not do that. I wasn't in the house. You wasn't in the house. We have to believe what the authorities say to us. We have to believe what the media say to us. And we know the media is full of shit. We know people are corrupted. You know people can be bought. People can be brought. Not only that, they found Bible placed on Chris Benoit, by Chris Benoit. They found a Bible by Nancy Benoit and his child, his 7-year-old kid. This is why when you go back and watch WrestleMania, if you're a wrestling fan, if you go back and watch WrestleMania, remember the moment Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero had that they shared in the ring? When Benoit won the world title, Eddie Guerrero was champion at the same time. It was a huge celebration. It was a huge celebration. That's because they was getting ready to be sacrificed. Oh, it was CTE. Chris Benoit got hit in the head. He went mad. He killed his family. That's the narrative that they're drawing. That's the narrative that they're going with. He killed his family. He got hit in his head. Yada, yada, yada. That's fake. They ran the narrative that Chris Benoit killed himself. He did not kill himself. I don't believe for 1 minute Chris Benoit killed himself. Not only that, you know who died the same day Benoit did? His very first tag team partner. I forgot his tag team partner name. Is that a coincidence? The same day Benoit died is the same day Chris Benoit died. His partner died. His very first partner that he tagged him with when he first came into pro wrestling died the same day. Come on, man. Wrestling industry is no different than the music industry, man. They're doing blood sacrifices in all form of entertainment. Hollywood, NFL, the NBA, all that shit. WWE, no different. And after Benoit's death, the WWE continued to flourish. Umaga was a blood sacrifice. And recent death was Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt death was recent. That was another blood sacrifice. And what happened after Bray Wyatt died? WWE teamed up with TKO. I think, yeah, he teamed up with the TKO making more money. Bray Wyatt was a sacrifice, man. And they're gonna say some health problem and stuff like that. No, Bray Wyatt was a sacrifice. Remember when I said Eddie Guerrero? Remember when I said before Eddie Guerrero died, they showed the Undertaker choke slamming. They showed the Undertaker choke slamming Eddie Guerrero in the casket. Before Chris Benoit died, they showed the Undertaker in a video game telling Chris Benoit, your family gonna have no choice but to blame you for something. I don't know, it was something to that effect, that your grieving family have nobody but to blame yourself. And before Bray Wyatt died, guess who talked to Bray Wyatt in the ring? The last appearance of Bray Wyatt, you guessed it, The Undertaker. And y'all telling me it's a coincidence? So that's 3. That's 3. Last conversation was with The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt is dead. And, you know, between those deaths, there's been so many deaths in the WWE that's been a blood sacrifice for Vince. Test. I don't know if y'all remember the wrestler Test. He died 33 years old. Ultimate Warrior was another blood sacrifice. China was another blood sacrifice. You want to know what's crazy about Ultimate Warrior death? After he got inducted into the Hall of Fame, he died. After he got inducted to the Hall of Fame, he died. When China died, that's when they induct China with DX into the Hall of Fame. I'm telling you, Vince McMahon and the WWE, they practice blood sacrifice ritual, man. I don't expect WWE fans to understand that. They're gonna think I'm crazy. They're gonna think I'm delusional. They're gonna think I'm a nutcrack. And that's okay. I don't expect them to understand that, because they don't understand the world that they live in, man. They don't understand the art of blood sacrifices. They don't understand that. They don't even understand the world that they're living in. We live in a dark, dark world, man. They don't understand they're dealing with sorcerers and wizards and shit like that. They don't understand. I don't expect them to understand. But yeah, man. And what else? Yeah, man, Vince McMahon's into that shit, man. Vince McMahon, the whole WWE is ran by, again, it's ran by the occult, man. It's ran by hating forces that you can't see. Again, they control the airwaves. If you want success, if you want fame, if you want to be known, you're gonna have to partake in some kind of ritual. Because the earth belongs to who? The wicked. The entire planet is up under the wicked. That means they control the NFL, the NBA, they control hip hop, Hollywood, WWE, pro wrestling. They control the whole pro wrestling, not just WWE, the whole pro wrestling. The Von Erichs, I'm not sure if y'all know the Von Erichs. Another sacrifice. All of them boys was a sacrifice. This shit's no joke, man. Sacrifice, the blood sacrifice is an ancient Ancient ritual. It's an ancient practice. Old religion. Look up the Mayans. They tell you about the blood sacrifices, man. The Mayans was sacrificing kids left and right. Even the Bible dealing with blood sacrifices, man. It's an old practice. You got human sacrifices and you got animal sacrifice. Shit, this ain't no joke, man. This ain't no joke. This is deep. This is deep. I believe Vince McMahon is some kind of Freemason. Vince McMahon is some kind of Freemason, man. Everybody's sold out. When you see guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hogan, The Rock, John Cena, them boys sold out. Not only that, let's go a little bit deeper. You heard about the rumor that Shawn Michaels was gay, that Vince McMahon slept with Shawn Michaels? That's true. Why do you think Shawn Michaels had the success he had? Because Shawn Michaels and Vince McMahon was practicing the homosexual ritual. Look at the Ring Boy scandal. How those raping them boys. Those raping young boys in professional wrestling. The boys that they used to put up the ring, when they set up the ring, they use young teenage boys to set up the ring. They was raping them. Look it up. Because they was practicing homosexual ritual. You know what I mean? So there's been and another thing, you guys have to think, how the hell Vince McMahon outlived almost all his talent? Think about it. How did Vince McMahon outlive all his talent? They're gonna say, oh, it's steroids, oh, it's drugs. Of course they're gonna say that, because they're wrestlers. Just like in hip hop, when rappers get killed, the majority of the way that rappers get killed is what? To shooting. When gangster rapper die, they die by what? Shooting. You're not gonna think twice. Well, of course he's a gangster rapper. When a wrestler die, they're gonna say it's overdose on drugs. Why? Because he's a wrestler. They take steroids. They take all type of drugs. So it's not gonna ring a bell to anyone. Well, it's a wrestler that died. Oh, it's a wrestler that died over drug overdose and stuff like that. It always run with drug overdose. Brian Pillman was a blood sacrifice. Going back to Vince McMahon, think about it. Vince McMahon outlived a lot of his wrestlers, man. Isn't that strange? Think about it. Eddie Guerrero, Benoit, Viscera, Umaga, Bray Wyatt, Ultimate Warrior, Hogan. Who else? Crash Holly, Boss Man, Yokozuna. And y'all not wondering how the fuck Vince McMahon outlived these dudes? Don't tell me it's steroids. Don't tell me it's drug. All that shit. That's what the media wants you to think. All these guys was Vince sacrifices. That's why Vince outlived all of them. Come on, man. Oh, it's just drugs. Oh, they're taking too much drugs. Oh, maybe too much steroids. Oh, something like that. Shut your ass up, man. You don't know what the hell you talking about, man. You don't know the occult. You don't study the occult, man. You don't understand what's going on. You're not meant to understand. You're not supposed to understand that. You're not supposed to understand what I'm telling you. I know I sound dead crazy to you, but it is what it is. Whether you believe me or not, I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, Vince outlived almost all his wrestlers that used to wrestle up under him. I used to wrestle up under him. And another thing before I say, you see, they say WCW went out of business, right? That's what they told you. But you see, the guy that owned WCW, he's not down to do what Vince McMahon did. The guy that owned WCW, he wasn't down to sacrifice none of that shit. That's why WCW went off air. That's why Vince McMahon brought WCW, because Vince McMahon, he's willing to sacrifice his wrestlers. He don't give a damn. But anyways, man, y'all be good. Y'all still wear it. Your boy's out.